Call to order the meeting of the Greenwood Common Council on Monday, March the 4th. If you would please stand with me. We'll be led in the pledge this evening by a couple Boy Scouts that are here. And after the Boy Scouts are done, and the pledge is done, we'll be led in prayer by Reverend David Mark Owen. Owen's the lead chaplain at Otterbein Franklin Senior Life Community.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. God of all, we know in a city not too far away from here tonight, tomorrow there's going to be a great celebration. There will be beads and music and joy and laughter and all kinds of cool stuff. And then we know that this city and those of the Christian faith will be getting down to working on some disciplines in their life and trying to make themselves better. And there'll be a great celebration out in the distance for all of us. But God of all, we ask you to maybe make that a dynamic for us tonight. Help us to celebrate the good blessings you've given to our city of Greenwood, to each of us individually, and to be aware that we have much to be joyous and laugh about and smile about, because the heritage is of a good place to live, and we thank you for that. God of all, remind us to get down to the discipline of trying to make ourselves better, to improve what we can improve, to work with the resources and put them into the needs. We know that there's areas where we can be better, and so remind us of that. God of all, remind us also tonight that there's folks that are hurting, and sickness and flu is all around. We mentioned our friend John Asher and ask you to care for him and his family tonight. We ask you to care for others that come to mind and heart right now. But bring us to happy days ahead and remind us of both celebration and hard work lead to a great sunrise ahead for each one of us. Praise your name. Thank you for the city council. We invoke your presence. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. We have the Boy Scouts introduce themselves and step behind the podium there and use the microphone and let us know what troop they're with and their name and why they're here today. Go ahead, step right up there.
I'm Jackson Golden from Troop 266. We meet at the Presbyterian Church, and really all we are. I'm not prepared.
My name is Josh Hensley. I am also with Troop 266. We are both actually here for a requirement for the Communications Merit Badge, which is ECO requirement. So that way we are one step closer.
Thank you. And Liam. I didn't realize there was another one.
My name is Liam Moore, and I'm with Troop 51. I'm here for the Communications and Citizenship in the Community Merit Badges.
All right, thank you very much. Glad to have you with us this evening. Roll call.
Armstrong.
Here.
Bates.
Present.
Campbell.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Foster.
Here.
Gibson. Here. Hill.
Here.
Hopper.
Here.
And Lexi.
Here. We have a quorum. All of you should have received copies of the minutes from our regular meeting on February the 20th. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second. Motion by Mr. Bates, second by Mr. Dine. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing a roll call on the minutes.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dine.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
And Lexi.
Aye.
Minutes are approved and voted 9-0. It's time for the audience request, and right now we have the social representatives from the Social of Greenwood here, and they have a presentation for us. So, ladies, if you want to step to the podium.
Good evening, Council. I'm Andrea Sutherland, Executive Director of the Social of Greenwood, and right there is Ashley Koval, Operations Manager. We're a staff of 2. the nonprofit senior center on Polk Street. I'm gonna let her pass those out real quick. Thank you, Ashley. So we're happy to be here to share some of our accomplishments from 2018. In an effort to show you what our nonprofit organization does, I'd like to play you a short video. In our community, seniors face a lot of issues and have no place to go. And since 1979, the Social has been providing programs, services, and activities designed to enhance their lives. What we used to be called the Greenwood Senior Citizen Center, we now have over 1,300 members, 2 full-time staff, and over 65 volunteers. We're also a nonprofit, and we are a 211 resource hotline. So the Social provides activities, educational workshops, everything from cards, bingo, to different kind of clubs and groups, such as a book club, a craft club. We also have a food pantry that is solely ran by our volunteers, and we serve about 600 families a month. We also have a Rock Steady boxing program. So it's a non-contact boxing program that helps them fight back against the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. And what started with 5 boxers on our roster became 80.
Working with Rock Steady changed me mentally, for sure, and physically. It slowed the progression, if not pretty much stopped it for a while. I just see it as a benefit to everybody. Everybody has a good time in there, everybody gets a great workout, and just like a little community.
We feel lucky enough to be able to work with people that have been in some of the most difficult situations that they've ever faced. And it's very rewarding to be able to see someone come into the Social looking for help and know them and learn more about them, help them go through the process of gaining more independence. We've seen those situations and we've seen the difference that it's made in their lives. It's a refuge. We're there for people that need us, and we have nowhere else to go. And there's nothing better than that. So, as you can see, we're pretty busy over there. I have shared with you an infographic to kind of go over some of the things that we've accomplished in 2018. So we have nearly 1,300 members that participate in over 30 programs. They're designed to enhance their quality of life and support their independence. Our food pantry served a little over 214,000 pounds of food to almost 8,000 patrons in the community. 64 volunteers gave over 24,000 hours of service to our organization. We talked a little bit about Rock Steady Boxing in the video. We do have over 80 boxers battling Parkinson's disease. And then last but definitely not least, I think the highlight of our year is that we were awarded a $500,000 grant from the Office of Community and Rural Affairs in partnership with the City of Greenwood to renovate and expand our current building at 550 Polk Street. So we will be relocating to a temporary location the last week of March and hope that construction starts soon after that. So as always, thank you so much for your support of the Social. We couldn't do it without you.
Thank you. You all do a great job. Any questions or comments?
Where is your temporary location?
Well, we have a couple throughout the city. We've worked with community partners to do all of our programs. The one main location will be sharing the refuge on Main and Emerson. So that would kind of be our hub.
All right, any other questions?
How do many of the recipients, how did they get to your location? Do we have Johnson County Access? How do they?
Yeah, we do. We use Johnson County Access and then Johnson County Senior Services, and we help schedule rides for seniors that have transportation issues.
I assume that happens on a daily basis.
All the time. Yeah, it's the number one need, I think, of seniors in our community. So, yeah. You're welcome.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All of you on the council should have received a copy of the contract with the social. Over the last 4 years, this council and the mayor has worked to increase funding for the social, and we're very pleased that that's the case. Last year, when we voted on the budget, we voted to approve for this year $35,000 for the social. That is split 50-50 between the mayor's office and the council's budget. And so, should have had the contract. I'll at this point entertain a motion to approve that contract.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Gibson, second by Mr. Bates. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And is there a representative here from the Greenwood Band?
Evening, I'm Steve Ruskowski, the current board president for Greenwood Band, something I've not been able to get out of so far. But first off, thanks for all the support from Mayor, Parks Department, schools, and the whole city of Greenwood in general. I'll get to it later, but we do a large band festival at the end of the year, and it's amazing talking with some of the other bands, just how fortunate we are to have so much support. Talking with a lot of the other groups, they're really fighting just to keep their heads above water. So just a quick 2018 year in review. Last year when I was here to talk, we got a new musical director, Randy Greenwell, and with him, things have really expanded like we can't believe. Membership is actually up just under 15% from the same time last year. One of the things he's doing is pushing the band really with more and more difficult music and interesting, but that's actually drawing in more and more people and making the band, I think, a good bit better. Our concert attendance has grown dramatically over the last couple of years, and part of that, we've been doing things more like themed concerts instead of just a band concert. People know what they're going to hear. At the Christmas concert, we were surprised that pleasantly surprised. The auditorium at the high school was almost full. We printed 400 programs and unfortunately ran out, so we don't have an actual head count, but I mean, we had a lot of people there. But more importantly, I think, is our plans for this year, and starts off actually tomorrow. We're in a concert at Warren Central. It's an invite for bands from the area. We were one of the 4 selected for that. And then our first concert in the high school is April 14th, Sunday at 3 o'clock. Besides we do 8 local events in between the park and high school and some other local venues right around Greenwood. This year we're actually going to be spreading the word of Greenwood a little bit around the state. We're going to be playing the anthem at a Indians game on June 1st. And then the next weekend, Greenwood Band was selected to be the guest band for a music educators conference up in Mishawaka. So that was a pretty neat thing to pick up this year. Something that I did with our people was actually issued a challenge at our January planning meeting to our own board that governs the band, and was just asking if people could come up with ideas to leave the band better than they found it, instead of us just kind of plodding along playing music. And some of the neater ideas that I think came of that, we've initiated a partnership with Franklin College where there's a marketing class is doing case studies to see how we can build more audience and become even more relevant in the community. When I was there for interviews and answering questions for the class, I couldn't believe the excitement they had about the projects. That's something I think is going to be, very mutually beneficial. Another thing we're doing this year is, again, instead of just having concerts and trying to get things to be more of an event, is trying to partner up with other charitable organizations. One, we're working with the Johnson County Animal Shelter to see if we can use the music and stuff we do in the park to bring awareness to them. We've got a meeting on April 9th to get with Restore Old Town Greenwood to see if there's anything we can do to help with their efforts and initial conversations, as they would love to have us dovetail with some things. So I'm hoping that'll be another way we can be a bigger part of community. And then even beyond the things we do musically, I've reached out to Rob Taggart at the parks, because we've got people that are willing to volunteer if there's things planting, just anything to make the amphitheater area even nicer, which is quite a challenge, but I'm in dialogue with them, and hopefully they'll be able to use us for some things like that. And then our biggest event is the community concert in the park we do on August 24th, and that's where we have bands from all across the state come. And its reputation has spread enough. We actually had an inquiry from as far away as Northwest Indiana, which that band decided that is a little far to travel, but this year there were 3 bands that haven't played at the festival before that all requested spots to play, and it's kind of a neat problem to have, but right now we've got more bands than time slots, so we've had to go to a blind draw to see who our bands are, but this year besides ours, we've got 7 traveling from all over the furthest away from Madison, Indiana. So that's where we're going this year. I think things are really on a positive track, and hopefully we'll see some of you at concerts. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions? All right, thank you, Steve, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Y'all, and our budget, as well as what we approved for the social, we approved $4,000 for the band. Y'all should receive the contract on that, and so I entertain a motion to approve that contract.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lexi, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Foster. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It is approved unanimously. At this time, if there are members of the audience who would like to address the council concerning items that are on the agenda for tonight, this is your opportunity. Please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. I am Dale Marmaduke from 1153 Pilgrim Drive in Greenwood, Indiana, and I wanted to do a quick compare and contrast concerning the warehouse which is up for vote today, very quickly. And compare and contrast when I'm going to compare subsidized speculation warehouses against non-subsidized shopping stores. Employment-wise, they're about the same in wage, turnover, benefits, hourlies. Warehouses might have a little bit of night shift work, but both subsidized speculation warehouses and non-subsidized retail stores give about the same benefit to Greenwood. Tax revenues, they both pay property tax, but of course, shopping centers have that additional sales tax that comes back to the city. Most shopping centers don't get subsidies from the city, not all. Environment. Shopping centers don't deal with hazardous waste, like we'll say Monsanto's warehouse proposal, where warehouses, especially speculation warehouses, and I dare say if it's something good, they would tell us about it, get hazardous waste dumps, trash transfer stations, scrap metal processing, noise, the worst of the worst traffic, the worst employment, things that shopping centers don't have, and the shopping centers that don't get the subsidies. I want to say warehouses are notorious for abusing their employees, and they excel in having dirt, dust, and hundreds of ugly-looking trucks parked outside. As if you drive along 65 right now, you would see. The tourism objectives. We looked at the Daily Journal this week. We saw that the city is offering payment bounties to anybody who can organize an event to attract people to the city. Warehouses don't attract anybody unless you want to do maybe catfish fishing in the retention pond, assuming they don't have a coated oil, but people do travel for shopping quite frequently. It will build a tax base is one of the things I heard about giving money for these speculation warehouses. And I know that they, looking at the private tax records, I want to say they paid close to $1 million for this land. If you pay $1 million for land, you're going to develop it, even without the city giving you $1.5 million. And so I don't really believe that's a valid, in my mind, issue. Also, a review of the property tax records for different warehouses in Greenwood show that they do sell back and forth for considerable profit. They're a profitable item. I can understand why they want to build them, and I can understand why they want our money, because who doesn't want our money? And who does it bring in? You know, with the options of bringing in a shopping center or a warehouse, You know, we pay for shelter, we pay for warehouses and not for Walmarts or Targets or Kroger's. And my conclusion from the review is that warehouses aren't worth a penny more than paying for anything else in the city. And I think that we should not do that. And then I follow up with that, we might consider using the money for other things. For example, our debt. We have a total debt of $89 million. And a lot of that's TIF related because we have to pay a lot of money to bring in these warehouses. And maybe we should say no to the supplement and pay down our debt and look out for our citizens with things they want besides trucks and truck stops, and etc. Thank you for your time. Any questions? I understand.
Good evening, Randy Gooden, 1157 Central Park Boulevard, South Greenwood, Indiana, 46143. In regards to what Mr. Marmaduke just spoke about, I spoke with the gentleman after the last meeting where this has come before, and yes, we are benefited sometimes more by retail than by warehousing. But understanding where this is, there is no way we can put them all there. We can't put a Walmart there. It just wouldn't work. Speculative buildings, they are speculative. But if you talk with the JCDC, you will understand that there's a shortage of buildings like this at the moment. There's a need for this. Normally I would not be standing here and saying this, but again, as you all know, I've grown over the last 4 years and I understand things much better. This particular item is in a park that is already owned, already has buildings in this area. And I wouldn't know any reason in my mind why we would try and put any type of retail or housing or anything other than what they're proposing, unless we had some standalone type of business that wanted to put an industrial building in there. That's really the only thing that can fit. And again, I know it's speculative, it's not a word that we like, but we've heard time and again from the Development Corporation and from several other people that there is a need for this type of development right now in the city of Greenwood. If this was outside of there, outside of the business park, where everything is already being built, then I may agree with the argument that was just presented, but in this case, I would say that this would be better to be developed as speculative or an industrial building moving forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council at this time? Seeing none. Reports, Corporation Council.
You all should have received the litigation report and the items semi-monthly, and if you have questions, please contact me.
All right, anything from the controller at this time? Any other committee or board reports? All right, ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President, councilors. I'd like to walk on an ordinance tonight, if that'd be all right with you. First, I'd like to explain what it is. Over the last year, ever since Krista Taggart left us as Corporation Counsel, we've done quite a few searches to fill the position of Corporation Counsel to no avail. With the requirements that are intact right now with the state law, the Corporation Counsel must live in Johnson County. One of the biggest drawbacks we have with that is a lot of the attorneys live in Marion County or in surrounding counties and do not want to relocate. They've applied for the job. After a lot of time talking about this, the deputy mayor and I have interviewed numerous people. There's one person that kept coming back to mind, a resident here of Greenwood that's very interested in becoming Corporation Counsel someday. Right now, she's not quite qualified for that. But as we thought about it, continued to talk to it, consulted with our legal staff and also with our current Corporation Counsel with TAP, what we'd like to do is hire a second assistant city attorney, someone that can come in and help take the load off of a lot of the many things that are going on in the legal department right now and remove some of the load off of them and allow us to get that person to come in and out of the group of people, hopefully train one of those three up to be the next Corporation Counsel for the city. In the meantime, we would continue to keep Taft on
retainer at a much lower rate. And as you notice in the ordinance that was passed to you tonight, there will not be any increase in the salary that's proposed in the 2019 budget.
All right. Any questions?
First, I move, make a motion that we accept this walk-on ordinance.
All right. We have a motion by Mr. Bates, second by Ms. Gibson to walk on ordinance 1905. Any discussion on that?
I haven't seen the ordinance.
It was emailed out. I emailed it out on Friday.
Oh, okay. That one, he was saying that we received it today, so.
Oh,
okay.
well, no, I emailed it out on Friday.
Okay.
Everybody should have received it.
I did see that.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Thank you, Mayor. All in favor of walking this on, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ordinance 1905 is walked on. We'll put it under new business after ordinance 1904. There is none under notice of intent to consider. First reading, resolution 1902.
A resolution declaring certain area within the city of Greenwood an economic revitalization area and qualifying certain real property improvements for tax abatement and setting the time and place for a public hearing. Becknell Industrial South Tech Business Park Building 2, sponsored by Hopper and Campbell.
Do you have a motion? Motion by Mr. Hopper, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dine. Mr. Sherman.
Thank you. We made our presentation at the introduction. This is a 151,800 square foot speculative building that we've seen. We've got the math on it is $150,000 investment in real estate, $8,250,000 in the improvements. There's not much that's changed since our first presentation. Some information that I did want to give you that I think will be helpful is these are some of the businesses that we have here in Greenwood that have been abated, and some of them have rolled off abatement, some of them are still on abatement. There's one that's about 12,400 square feet, 18 employees. The average of this is $111,361 is the average wages. It's a very successful company in the community. Now there's a 24,000 square foot building, and these, because they are 151,000, doesn't mean they're a warehouse. They typically are bifurcated into smaller sections that smaller businesses such as these could lease. 48,000 square feet, 37 employees, $72,459 average wage. 24,000 square foot, 39 employees, average wage $39,870. There's one that's a large building, 200,000, has 96 employees. The average wage in that building is $44,000. So 60,500 square feet, 12 employees, 42,500. So by some of those numbers, I just want you to see that we get smaller businesses in, and some of them larger, and actually bring high-paying jobs into our community. The other thing that is often misunderstood by some, I think the council's well aware of it, that these abatements go toward, they're passed on through the CAM charges to the tenant. So as we try to bring tenants into our community, they always look at how much it's going to cost. Now, the abatements help their rent. And as you know, as any of you have moved to business, when you do that, it's extremely expensive, and the abatement of the taxes assists them with the lower rent in those early years. So I wanted to give you that ancillary information as just for your information, that you've heard some of the information about warehousing. This isn't always warehousing, so I'd answer any information about the building that you might have.
All right, thank you. Just to be clear, based on the summary of tax and abatement projections, the city of Greenwood over the next 10 years is not going to write Becknell a check for $1.5 million total. That's in actuality. Becknell's over the next 10 years is projected to write the city a check for $1.5 million in total over 10 years. And by abatement, we're just simply discounting the amount of tax, or the total amount of tax that you all would pay, and that's what the savings on that abatement is what's being passed on to renters. Is that correct?
That's correct. And certainly over that same 10-year period, if it were not for that building, if it was still in farm ground or whatever, over that 10-year period, it would have paid $4,980 in tax.
Yeah, so we're going to collect $1.5 million. Well, actually, $1,547,000, almost $48,000, as opposed to $4,898. Is that
over 10-year period? Correct.
That's the projection at this point.
Yes.
You could probably double that because the personal property that comes in would be.
Yeah, then
it too. So.
And that's correct. I mean, this is just the building, and as you have seen in your careers as counselors, if you get a machine shop or someone, they will want to come in and ask for abatement on their personal property. It kind of gives you a second bite at that apple, whether you want to give that abatement based on what kind of wages they have.
Yeah, I know abatements can sometimes be confusing, and for the longest I thought maybe it was just locally, but I've heard national politicians make statements about abatements that would seem to be just as confused as a lot of people. So
the $3 billion that Amazon, they're not writing a check to Amazon to in New York.
The $3 billion that New York now has to spend that they didn't have. But anyway, I just want to be clear that there's no money transferring from Greenwood to Becknell. It's actually the other way around, and the abatement is just, we're discounting the property taxes over a 10-year, prorated over a 10-year period.
And that then gets passed off to our tenants that are our residents.
Okay.
That's another question. I should probably ask you this beforehand so that I knew the answer, but I think I already know the answer. Would it be fair to say that without our TIF district and the money that we pour into the east side in infrastructure and the tax abatements that we give folks out there, that the east side of Greenwood would look a lot like the east side of Whiteland right now? Nothing, farmland, nobody's getting anything?
As other communities have given abatements, that's what we look like. If we had not looked like that, and Whiteland's doing a much better job now.
They're trying now.
But see, they, as well as Franklin, as well as the county.
No, that's true.
I mean, the counties, and it's all about that infrastructure. So the county's trying to do an ERA as well, to do the same thing south of Franklin. Franklin's done a good job on their west side, so you can tell the TIF districts have gone to put that infrastructure in place that allowed us. As I've been doing this for many years, you can see so many buildings have rolled off of abatements and now are putting large monies into the city.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. President. Also, the personal property does not go into the TIF area or into the TIF money, and I think we need to make that clear.
Yeah,
there's always discussion.
But it's true. But the point Mr. Hopper was making is that personal property, is additional tax revenue that's not included in this.
All of that amount goes directly.
All right, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, first reading, resolution 1902.
Armstrong,
Nay.
Bates,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
and Lexi.
Aye.
Resolution 1902 passes first reading 8-1. Second reading, there are none. New business, introduction of new ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance 1904.
An ordinance vacating platted access easements located at 736 Lowe's Boulevard, sponsored by Bates and Gibson.
Somebody here want to talk to us about this?
Okay.
Mr. Peebles?
You'll have to excuse me, this is my first time in this venue.
I thought I saw a PowerPoint presentation. I figured somebody was here to.
Yeah, is that up here? No, okay, good. Oh, thank you. Do you want the full-blown presentation, or do you want just the?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Tell us everything you know. You got 5 minutes.
That won't take 5 minutes. I'm Bill Peoples, a planner for the city. I'm coming before you requesting an approval of our request to vacate 2 platted access easements through property the city owns. A couple of years ago, the city purchased the gun range over there on Lowe's Boulevard that had been leasing for several years prior to the transition, obviously from Don's Guns over to the gun range. Now the city owns it. These are located within the Cameron Square commercial subdivision, and these 3 lots the city owns are lots 1 and 2, lots 1, 2, and 3. We did file with the clerk a request to vacate these 2 of the 3 access easements through these lots, which provide access to the 4-building apartment complex that is really directly behind these lots. That apartment complex is constructed on lots 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the same subdivision. Cameron Square has 3 access easements platted through the lots. The city currently, through the lots that the city currently owns, one that's actually through the parking lot of the gun range. You can sort of see that there highlighted in yellow. One that's through lot 2, which is sort of a V-shaped lot. That's also highlighted in yellow. And then the third one is an access easement that actually is improved with a asphalt access drive back to Cameron Square, back to those 4 multifamily dwellings. That third access easement will be perpetuated and will continue on to provide access for those apartments. Due to the increased need for security and access control at the police training center, the Greenwood intends to construct a security fence around that property. So we've moved the evidence locker from the old Justice Center over to this, and we need to increase 1, access control in the facility, and 2, security for the facility to make sure that evidence is more securely contained. The city is prepared to remove the existing parking area. So on the east or the west side of that access easement, that 4th building has a strip of parking along it. What the city's going to do is remove that parking and build a new parking lot for that 4th building just to the south of the building, like the other 3 buildings have parking. And then we'll fence the lot, and but we will perpetuate an emergency ingress and egress through that lot. So the fire department, the police department will be able to go through that lot as a second means of ingress and egress to those 4 buildings back behind it, in the event there's an emergency call that requires that second means of ingress. In other words, that the one that they currently have is blocked. We do that because our own ordinances require that. So any development that has 4 buildings, multifamily buildings, have to have at least 2 points of ingress and egress. This one we'll fence it, but we'll gate it, and we'll put Knox locks on it, so that the fire department and the police department can get through if they need to. We do not intend to vacate any of the other easements in Cameron Square. It's just the 2 highlighted easements that you see over there in yellow. The vacation of these 2 easements will not hinder the growth or orderly development of the city of Greenwood, since the areas surrounding the proposed vacations are really already developed, except for these 2 lots that the city currently owns. The vacation of these 2 easements will not make access to the properties by means of a public way difficult or inconvenient, since the city will construct a new parking lot, new access to that 4th building, and the access that the other 3 buildings currently have will be perpetuated, so that there will, in fact, the access is not on a public way anyway, because that portion of Lowe's Boulevard is a private drive. The vacation of these 2 easements will not hinder the public's access to a church, school, or other public building or place, Since neither a church or a school gain access through these easements, and access to the only public building in place is intended to be restricted through the action, and that is the gun range and the training center, just for access control and safety of that structure. The vacation of these two easements will not hinder the use of a public way, since they don't provide really access to a public way, nor to a neighborhood which they are located, which they are contiguous. And finally, the vacation of these two easements will not affect the health, safety, or welfare of the general public, the delivery of public services, since the city will maintain fire department access through the lot for second emergency access as required by our own ordinances, and this access will be gated and access controlled for the use of a Knox lock or a Knox box. That's it in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions?
I understand the larger of the two easements. I didn't understand the rationale behind the smaller of the two easements.
The little V-shaped easement there.
Yeah.
It's unimproved. It's been there since Cameron Square has been platted, but it's never been used. It just encumbers that lot with an additional access easement. If the city wants to do something with that lot, say transfer it over to a private development, should they want to, or if they want to keep it. But if we want to transfer it, we could transfer it without being encumbered with an access easement and make it more developable.
So there are no utilities running through the second?
There may be. We don't. If there are utility easements, we don't seek to vacate those.
Okay.
This easement is merely an access easement. There are on the plat of Cameron Square water easements and sanitary easements and other sorts of things. Those we would perpetuate. So if there is utilities running through those particular lots, I can take a look at the plat of Cameron Square really fast. There is a water line easement along this lot line right here. And that looks like about the only easement on this particular lot.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
Mr. President?
Yes.
Since we've got property being stored over there and needing to get the property secured, would it be helpful to suspend the rules and move this through first reading, and then we would only have the second reading for the next meeting?
Mr. Peoples, can you answer that?
Oh, I would have no objection to that. No,
okay.
It's fine with me.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Gibson to suspend the rules through first reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dine. Any discussion? A roll call on suspension, ordinance 1904.
Bates,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dine,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
and Armstrong.
Aye.
Rules are suspended through first reading and voted 9-0. For our Boy Scouts here tonight, we normally, when ordinances are submitted, and these are under new business, they're introduced at one meeting. At the next meeting, we have first reading, and tonight we had a resolution under first reading. And then if it passes, which Resolution 1902 did pass, it'll come back at our next meeting for second reading. Tonight there were none under second reading. So almost every ordinance or resolution we pass comes before us 3 different times, and we get to vote on it twice, which is always convenient. And but on occasion, and tonight you'll see it here and maybe later, due to the particular type of ordinance, you can see what this is. The council can choose to suspend the rules, and we've done so on this ordinance to suspend it through first reading. So now we'll have first reading and a vote on it tonight, which normally that would not take place. So just so you know. So do I have a motion on first reading ordinance 1904 ordinance, or motion by Mr. Bates, second by Ms. Gibson. Any further discussion? Seeing a roll call, first reading ordinance 1904.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dine,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Armstrong,
ordinance 1904 passes first reading 9-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our walk-on ordinance 1905.
An ordinance amending the 2019 salary ordinance, Common Council Ordinance number 1823, to add an additional assistant city attorney position to the legal department.
Mr. Mayor? I do have a question.
Are you sponsoring
Yes,
it?
yeah,
Sponsored by Mr.
yes,
Cole.
We had someone else offered to sponsor it as well. So Ms. Gibson offered as well. I do have a question for you before we get started. I know the legal department has had a lot of work, and I know Ms. Coons accumulated, I understand, a large amount of comp time, which this council voted to compensate her for some of that. Was she able to take all of that comp time and take a vacation with it last year, or did she lose some of that?
You want a serious answer to that?
Yes?
Yes.
Because I think we all know the answer, but
We tried.
just for the record, she put in a lot of hours for which she was never compensated for. Is that correct? She put in a lot of hours that she wasn't compensated.
A ton of hours, and it's deeply appreciated.
Yeah, well, I just want to say I do appreciate all that she's done, and she's been a joy to work with and always pleasant to me. So she has always been a joy to work with. So continues to be. Yes. So
we need to pass an ordinance.
I think so. So when we talk about adding an assistant and reducing task responsibilities, we're actually going to help her and help the city accomplish more work and be a little more efficient and not have to work her to death. Is that, or not have to work your staff to death. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right.
That is the wishes of the administration.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No.
I just think that I know Shauna has worked hard, and we appreciate all that she's done. And I always feel bad when I send her an email and say, "Hey, would you check on this for me?" or "Hey, what about this?" Because I know she's busy, but she's always been pleasant to work with, and has always answered my emails fairly quickly. So I do appreciate that.
We would ask for suspension of the rules if possible, only through the first reading.
All right, we do have ordinance 1905. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules through first reading? Motion. I'm sorry. Who's first? Ms. Gibson makes the motion. Mr. Dine seconds that motion on suspension. Any discussion on suspension? Seeing none, roll call. Ordinance 1905, suspension of the rules through first reading.
Dine. Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
And Campbell.
Aye. Rules are suspended through first reading. Do I have a motion, first reading 1905? So moved. Motion by Mr. Bates, second by Ms. Gibson. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I was seeing where in here where it's taking money away from the TAP budget. It's just adding an
In this ordinance, it does not. I believe it's covered in.
This ordinance,
You wrote it.
if I understand it, it's to creating a new position.
Yes.
The funding a new position.
And it's administratively, we will be reducing the number of hours for the TAP budget.
Okay.
Does that say we have to trust you to do this?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I am trying.
So I'm assuming we have a contract with Taft, and it says that 30, 60 days we give them notice that we're reducing some such language. We are doing that or have done that.
We are in the process of doing that, depending on what happens here tonight, sir.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call. Ordinance 1905, first reading.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
And Dine.
Aye.
Thank you.
Ordinance 1905 passes first reading 9-0. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 1903.
A resolution approving an interlocal agreement between the City of Greenwood and Pleasant Township, Johnson County regarding fire protection, sponsored by Gibson.
Chief Hoggett.
Good evening.
This is the annual resolution interlocal agreement between Pleasant Township and Greenwood Fire Department to protect the area in unincorporated Pleasant Township for both fire and EMS response.
Any questions?
How many runs do we make out there in a year?
Truly, probably less than a half a dozen, I would say. I'd have to actually search the actual run numbers, but the run load in that area is very, very low. And primarily, those runs are associated with motor vehicle accidents and not necessarily structure fires.
Right, any further questions? All right, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Does the current agreement run out before this one takes effect?
So the current agreement did run out at the end of 2018, but we have a separate mutual aid response pact for all fire departments within Johnson County that this would fall under. This specifically lays out the enumeration for financial obligations for Pleasant Township, whereas the mutual aid contract does not lay out any type of enumeration for any types of runs.
I'll make a motion to suspend rules.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Armstrong, a second by Mr. Hopper to suspend the rules of Resolution 1903 through first reading. Any discussion on suspension? Seeing none, roll call on suspension, ordinance 1903. A resolution 1903.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dine.
Aye.
And Foster.
Aye.
Resolution 1903 is suspended through first reading. Do we have a motion on first reading?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bates, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Alexi. Any discussion on Resolution 1903? Seeing none, roll call, Resolution 1903, first reading.
I'm sorry, did I start with?
It's all right.
It doesn't matter. Pick somebody.
Hopper. I
Aye.
thought this was on here since it was.
Aye.
Hopper. Alexi.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dine.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Resolution 1903 passes first reading 9-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would there be any benefit in passing it through second reading?
Well, we're the actual payment doesn't occur until the end of June.
Oh.
So the agreement is for obviously for the calendar year, but payment is biannual, so it comes in June and December.
Okay.
So we're okay as far as that goes. But I do appreciate asking.
Thank you very much.
I had one other question, because I'm not sure about my geography out on the east side, being the west sider that I am. You know, west side of 31, I don't know what happens on the east side. How much property is over there? Is this just like the 6 or 7 parcels that we didn't annex a few years ago, or is there another?
Those are included.
precinct out there
Those are included in this, but there is actually some to the southeast that's also included in this. If you can kind of picture where, if you go out east on Worsville Road and it makes a 90-degree to the north, there's some parcels in that area that are included in this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a further explanation of our Boy Scouts. You've seen us suspend the rules through first reading a couple times, and they was a unanimous vote. If we do that on one night, it doesn't require a unanimous vote. It requires a majority vote. But if we had, like this last ordinance, if we had tried to suspend it through second reading all in the same night, that second suspension would require a unanimous vote for us to do that all in one night. So. All right, miscellaneous business, council. We do have, at our last meeting, we reappointed Mike Sherman to the Greenwood Police Merit Commission. And we mentioned that our appointee to the Greenwood Fire Merit Board, Forrest Tug Sutton, was not be going back on, but was wanting to retire from that. And we have Bill Walsh here this evening. If you would like to step forward and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Welch. I've lived here in Greenwood off and on for 25 years. Excuse me, I've got a cold. I'm an Indianapolis fireman for 36 years and fortunate enough to stay in one or two of the business engine companies in the city. Upon my retirement, I took a job on the EMS side through Methodist Hospital, IU Methodist Hospital, and I'm the medical coordinator at Lucas Oil Stadium now, and I've had that job since 2006.
All right, this is a 4-year appointment. Any questions for Mr. Welch? All right, thank you. Do I have a motion to?
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a motion to appoint Mr. Welch as our representative?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Bates, second by Mr. Dine. Any further discussion? Seeing all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Mr. Welch. We do appreciate your willingness to serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other business from the council?
Mr. President, I think perhaps we had a fourth scout come in, so could we make sure that he gets a pen and get his name on the record?
You know, yes. If he would like to come, would you like to come up here and tell us your name and get your name on the record? I know we had a third scout. I only had 2 pins tonight, and so I apologize. No, I've used them all up, so I forgot to ask Molly to send me a new one. So unless somebody here's got a couple.
See the mayor.
Anyway, your name?
Yeah, you can lower
Yes,
that.
pull it right down there.
My name is Griffin Jones.
And what troop you with?
266.
And why are you here tonight?
Because I want to get the requirement for the merit badge signed off.
All right. Thank you very much.
Hold still.
Appreciate
Somebody's trying to get a picture of you.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Make it look like you're
Turn
talking
and
to
look
us.
at
Still.
There you go. Very good. Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Appreciate that. I know the other young man the 2 young men who did not get a pen, I do apologize. That's my fault for not having enough here, so we will try to get you one though. So thank you very much. Any other council business? All right, this is the second opportunity for members of the audience to address the council. So if you're here tonight and would like to address the council concerning items that were not on the agenda tonight, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. See none. Moving on, other miscellaneous business, Corporation Council.
We have some additional conflict of interest statements to be accepted at a public meeting, so we may file them with the state. Chris Harris, Greenwood firefighter, and his appointment to the Community Corrections Board for Johnson County and any action that may be connected to the city of Greenwood. Scott Hines, Board of Aviation Commissioner and an employee with Home Bank, which may offer financial banking services to the city of Greenwood. Kevin Hoover, Redevelopment Commission member, and his legal representation of the Greenwood Library Board, which may request TIF funding on collaborative projects.
All right, do you have a motion to accept these conflicts of interest? So moved. Motion Mr. Bates, second. Second by Mr. Alexi. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, those are accepted. Any other- Anything from the controller at this time? Anything from the mayor? Thank you, we are adjourned. Good job, man.